Life is often so busy, taking us here, there, seemingly everywhere. When you aren't able to make it to church, we hope you are fed and nourished by listening to the preaching of God's Word wherever you are at the moment. In the meantime, take care, and God bless.
Good morning. Welcome to worship here at St. Andrew again for those in person and also online this cold January day. I'm Pastor Peter Johnson. My turn here this morning to take a moment to talk about making room this week for the unexpected here this morning. Thanks for being here. A phrase came to mind this past week as I was preparing for this morning. Perhaps we don't think of it as the time of when we hear this phrase in the middle of winter. It's that phrase, walk, don't run. Right? That's the one that we dream about poolside with children or grandchildren saying, walk, don't run on to the next thing that you're doing at the pool, to the slide or to the diving board. Walk, slow down, be comfortable, and be safe. Well, that image came to mind as I was reminded by my colleagues during our series here on Making Room about the Christian theologian Rob Bell, who has a lot to say about this particular passage in Exodus chapter 3 that Pastor Matthew read for us here this morning, Moses and the burning bush. Walk, slow down, in other words. Rob Bell talks about this passage in a rather unique way, as he does interpreting it for life and circumstance here today in the 21st century, thinking back how many years ago this was when this happened here with Moses, and asking the question about Moses wandering in the wilderness and this bush that was burning there. The question is, could the bush have been burning for quite some time, asked Rob Bell. Could it be that there were other people who were wandering past the burning bush, but were going so quickly that they didn't notice that it was burning? Could it be that it was only Moses who was walking at a slow enough pace to notice that there was something unusual going on, to approach the burning bush and then to have the experience that's recorded then in Exodus chapter 3 that we have? Is there too much running of people that they missed that unexpected thing in the wilderness? And do we miss the unexpected occurrences of God showing up in good, in simple, or even in powerful ways because we are in the midst of running ourselves and keeping our eye on bigger balls, so to speak, rather than these important ones that we are to keep our eyes on as well? God's abiding presence with us in our lives and in our world, the incarnate Jesus, that God is with us in all that we are, and God is with us too. Are we running so fast that we should hear the words, slow down, or walk, because we're not seeing? Rob Bell would say that walking rather than running leads to seeing. So then I was thinking a bit about not just ourselves personally, but our culture and our lives, thinking about an illustration that would help us dive into this a little bit more. Now, one of the things that people talk about online quite a bit are the man-made wonders of the world. Did you know that there are lots more than just the 7 man-made wonders of the world? When I went on this week to go to this site or that site, these days everyone has an opinion, right? So there are a whole host of opinions. I was thinking back more conventionally to the original man-made wonders of the world. These were those pinnacle of achievements, right, of ancient civilizations. Things like Machu Picchu here in Peru. A retired pastor friend of mine had a son take him to this 11 or 12,000 foot site in South America, and he checked off his list one of the human-made places in the world. There's the Great Pyramids of Giza in Cairo, Egypt, that are popular and known, the amazing construction here 4,500 years ago, and the Great Wall of China as well. Great human achievements. I think in many ways, culturally, and even as a people, as a humanity, we focus ourselves on these kinds of achievements, of these kinds of successes, and these kinds of running toward these prizes and these broad understandings of who we are and who we can become. And we end up being the ones who make our way then into this lifestyle where we also have a way of focusing on achievements and of running and of being in this mode of creating. And subduing and of creating life the way we would like to live it. So in some ways, in a way, it's like, look at what we can do. Look at what we humans are capable of doing, of building a city at 12,000 feet or building this pyramid or this Great Wall of China or the Colosseum. Look at what we can do. But when I turn the page a bit and I think about the natural wonders of the world, I let God say some words to me as well. When I let God say, well, if you think you can do that, well, look at what I can do. Look at what I can do, you human beings who run to be successful and to conquer and to make these achievements. The natural wonders of the world helps to reset me. Like Mount Everest, one of the natural wonders of the world. There have been many people who have tried to conquer this mountain, not to come down the mountain alive. Just one example of the natural wonders of God's world. Who could dig a hole like this to set up creation so well that over the course of time the river would reveal such a wonderful canyon that is in Arizona? Who could put those clouds of light in the January skies? We can't do those kinds of things that show up in the nighttime skies in the wintertime. Just this past week on Wednesday morning was one of those really cold mornings. Perhaps you can see just to the right of the tree, there's that solar halo there. It's not the best picture of what I saw that Wednesday morning because it was even more dramatic when I saw that solar halo here as well. And then, of course, the other thing, the massive humbler of all of it is kind of like Psalm 8 when we look up at the stars and the sky and all that the world is. Lord, who am I that I am worthy to be just a little lower than you, the great, incredible, expanding, marvelous universe. And I think we get ourselves, when we think about expecting the unexpected or learning, that we spend a lot of our human history making the world expected. And that we organize it and we put it into our bins and we control our world. Yet when we're encountered by the natural wonders of God, and the promise of God and the faith life that we have, suddenly we are put into a different position and a different place. That maybe we don't need to run with our lives and with our purposes, but maybe walking is just fine. The Yiddish proverbs, we plan and God laughs. Albert Einstein, the more I study science, the more I believe in God. He talked about how he bumped up against the unknowable kinds of things where he just transferred it over then into what it was that faith spoke to him that went beyond that which was knowable to the unknowable and letting God be there at the same time. Back at Luther Seminary, Gerhard Forde was one of my teachers, at Luther. He taught Lutheran Confessions, a really important class. It is to this day, and I'll tell my colleagues this, the only class notes that I typed up and that I go back to this day, 25 years later, after attending a class with Gerhard Forde and Jim Nessigan, I still go back into my classroom notes. One of the things that was said by Gerhard Forde was, God is God and you, Peter, are not. God is God and you, Peter, are not. And I see that really as good news here. To be reminded of that not all of life and the life that we live, we can live setting up our expectations and controlling it so that it goes exactly the way we want it to go. because there's so much more, so much bigger and broader with what God is doing and where God is, that it's such good news actually to walk rather than run. To let maybe God do the running and to trust that God is present and God is running rather than we do it ourselves. But we spend a lot of time running. I do it just like you. I spend a lot of my time running and doing. And running, as Rob Bell says, is the opposite of seeing, because when we're running, we don't necessarily see everything that's going on around us. We don't let the unexpected appear. Back in November, I had a long day here. It was a Wednesday. I was teaching 8 a.m. confirmation and 7 p.m. confirmation, and then, of course, everything in between on a Wednesday were really long days. And so by about 10:15 then on that Wednesday evening, quite literally, I was in bed. I was getting ready to rest up after that long day, and my phone goes off. And I have been paged by the Eden Prairie Police Department to respond to a death at the Waters here in Eden Prairie. And so I was laying in bed in my pajamas, thinking to myself, I've already done all the running that I want to do today. There's a secondary chaplain who is on call as well, just like me. And so if the primary one, like me, can't make the call, then I trust one of my colleagues. And then the other 5 or 6 chaplains that we have to call out if the secondary is not available. Peter, it'll be fine. I think I maybe whispered to Michelle, I said, the police department just paged me. And she, I think, encouraged me and said, well. So I picked up the phone and I called in and got the instructions. I got dressed and made my way, as tired as I was. So also there's the issue of the kind of intensity that brings about. For all of my call-outs as an Eden Prairie Police chaplain, all have to relate to deaths. Death of one kind or another. And so immediately there's that anxiety that rises up. So I'm tired already. My anxiety is going up because I don't know what the circumstance is going to be when I arrive there. I don't know how the family is going to be when I arrive there. And I walk into the apartment at the Waters. It's 80 degrees in the apartment. And there is probably 20 people in the apartment as well. And we're in the middle, it's November, so we're in the middle of the pandemic as well. So I walk in thinking, okay. So the first person I meet, though, is a gentleman. He's maybe 10 years older than I am. It turns out that he's one of the 8 children of the deceased person who is in his bed back in the bedroom. And he tells me that his father, who died earlier that evening, was 101 years old. And that next week, he was going to be going into hospice, just the following week. He was very engaging, this gentleman was. So then I started talking a little bit more, and he said, my mom is in with Dad right now. They've been married for 76 years. So now I'm being humbled a little bit more. And so I was talking with him, and then he says, well, I'm one of the 8 kids. There are 6 kids who are here tonight with all of their spouses, right? So 6 kids, he's in his 60s, they're all grouped up. That's why there were so many people in the apartment, because all the family was responding at the same time, coming to the bedside of their father, their patriarch. And when I was talking with the man out in the living room, I could hear laughter from the bedroom. So I walk into the bedroom, and there's the widow who's seated in a chair next to the bed where the deceased is. And I'd been told that she was hard of hearing. And so I went down next to her. There was no other chair for me to sit on, so I went down onto my knees, and I knelt down next to her good ear, her left ear. And I had a 10-minute conversation with her, with me on my knees, where after about 2 minutes into the story, she reached around me and pulled me in tight. Catholic family, they don't need a Catholic priest. They have me. And so the 6 siblings and their spouses, the 12 people, gather around with me and the widow. We gather around the bed here where their father, their patriarch, is lying. We reach out, we put a hand on him, we say a prayer, we bless him, we commend him to God, and we say thanks to God for his incredible gifts. 101 years, 76 years of marriage. My knees are sore at this point. But it's a holy ground, right? So I'm not going to get up and disturb the holy ground of that place. It's too good. And I was going to lay in bed and let the secondary call chaplain do it or one of my other colleagues do it. I tell the story because how many times are we running so hard that we let these kinds of things pass by? We don't even know what they're going to be when we end up experiencing them later on. But I left that apartment saying to myself almost out loud, can I stay a little bit longer? Too many times do we miss out on these unexpected things because we're too busy running. We're not taking enough time walking. If our child comes to us and wants to explain the lyrics of hip hop, I have no idea, but I will take the time. If our daughter comes and says, I want to watch this YouTube with you, I have time. Whatever the case might be at your office, if someone needs a little extra time, we're good at running. We're good at performing. Our expectations are all around what we can do and be and making sure we get 4s and 5s on our evaluations. But really, there's so much merit and value in walking sometimes rather than running all the time. So important. Because that's when an unexpected thing can absolutely happen. And they do. And so finally, I want to invite you to walk with me for a moment. Walk with me for a moment in an experience this past week that actually becomes a ministry here of St. Andrew, potentially too, a ministry that we can do together. Many of you know already that we lived in Cairo, Egypt before coming to St. Andrew 11 years ago. We lived there. I've been at St. Andrew now for 8 or so now, and we are here. When the Arab Spring happened, and Michelle and I and the boys had to evacuate the country, we got a tiny glimpse of what it meant to be a refugee. A tiny glimpse of what it meant to be a refugee. A refugee is defined as someone who is forcefully removed from their homes. Now, we were there with the ELCA, with the Lutheran Church. We had all kinds of family. We had resources. I don't compare myself to a refugee at all, but I do know what it feels like to be afraid when I'm in a chaotic environment and I need to get out quickly. This past Tuesday evening, I had a chance to sit in on an informational session with Arrive Ministries that talk all about the challenges of Afghan refugees. Rewind 6 months to August and July and all the happenstance in Afghanistan. Now think about the last 6 months and the tens of thousands who have made their way onto military bases here in the United States as we've tried to get them evacuated from a chaotic environment there so that they can actually have life rather than death. Again, I don't compare myself to being a refugee, but I do know what it feels like to have my children threatened by the context of a chaotic culture. What did I learn on Tuesday night? I learned there are 82 forcefully repatriated people around the world, 83 million. That's 15 Minnesotas all around the world. I've learned that there is a journey that they go on, that it starts off with a pre-flight chaos. a pre-flight chaos, whatever that might be, whatever we might imagine. I learned that there is a fleeing process, either on foot or by bus or what have you, a fleeing process that every refugee goes through. And then there's a landing in a camp that might be in Tanzania with 250,000 people, or it might be landing in a city like Cairo where we lived and where our ministry for refugees occurred, where refugees had to blend themselves just into a city without any social services whatsoever. What else did I learn? Arrive Ministries settled in 2018, 19, and 20, 100 individuals each year. In December alone, they helped settle in 87 individuals just last month. So they are going from 5 miles an hour to 60 miles an hour because of the glut of refugees who have made their way onto military bases and need to make their way into our society, into our schools, into jobs, and into our communities. So my invitation to you is this. I'm inviting you to walk rather than run. But I also want to invite you to walk alongside me and potentially alongside new members of our community. I have met Afghan refugees in our church here. They've been here in our place, and I frankly want you to meet them as well. Because in the end, what I also learned through Arrive is that there are these teams called the Good Neighbor teams. How about that? What a great name, a Good Neighbor team. These families who come from Afghanistan don't know how bank accounts work. They don't know how the school transportation work. One story that I learned on Tuesday night was, you know how we go in and we set up our passwords on the computer and we're supposed to name our first pet? Well, our Afghan friends don't have pets to name. So they all need to create their own questions, security questions, and then write them down to remember that my first pet's name was Spot, even though they would never dream of having a dog. There is such a cultural disconnect for our new neighbors and our new friends from Afghanistan. And these Good Neighbor teams are a way for us to walk and not run, but walk alongside some new families in our area. A team of, say, 5, 10, 15 people. Maybe you're willing to take one day or one visit a week to help our Afghan refugees actually go through the mail. How quickly do we throw away the mail that comes in our mailboxes? But an Afghan doesn't know the difference between what's legit and what isn't legit. You know what I'm saying? The first thing that people do when they go to an Afghan family is make sure they're opening the right mail and throwing away the wrong mail. Simple for us, but not for our new neighbors. I think that when we're intentional about walking aside others, these unexpected goodnesses, graces, holy ground of community happens. I've been there before, and I want to be involved in situations where it happens again. So if you are interested in being part of a Good Neighbor team, send me an email. There will be a meeting here in February where we can learn more about it. If you want to be involved and walk alongside me and an Afghan family, let me know. Walk, don't run. It's not just what a lifeguard says, walk, don't run. I'd like to think that that's also something that Jesus says. Friends, just walk. Too many expectations. Too much insecurities out there with a pandemic going on and economy and inflation. Just walk. Just walk. And see how God is there. Thanks be to God. Amen.
We hope you found this week's message helpful as you think about how you will live out your faith each day. If you would like to support the ministries at St. Andrew Lutheran Church, you can do so by having your credit card information available and then texting a gift to 952-260-9007. Thank you, and God bless.